When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
How's it hangin'? I'm David Pumpkins, and I'm going to scare the hell out of you.
Halfway there already. And I'd be a discount pirate.
Well, happy Halloween, everybody. And we are, of course, SeptumSin versus the world. I'm SeptumSin. I'm here with Kotobuki Jake.
Hi.
And we're here to bring you a list as we near the Halloween season. Right now it's Monday, the 30th of the month. And we want to bring you a list that suits the season.
Where have I been for the past 2 weeks?
Sleep.
Sleeping off me rum.
And so
That's
we're
where
going
my
to be
head
bringing
hurts.
you a top 15 list that suits the season. This time I went ahead and I came up with one. We see a lot of these videos that tell you these are the top 15 hidden gems. Or these are the top 15 nice Halloween themed movies for the year. But rarely do you see a list of movies that actually gave us pause. Movies that made us feel a little bit uneasy, or very uneasy, or even downright scared. Now me, I have watched a lot of horror. I've been desensitized big time. And I don't know how desensitized you are by
Getting
horror
there.
movies, but I can tell you right now, it takes a lot. And there are a few on this list. One in particular that has left me very scared.
You should definitely clarify, though, that this still will not be a list of scary movies. This is scary media.
That's true. Any type of media goes.
Yes.
Whether it be film, whether it be TV, whether it be books, music, video games, paintings maybe. But you're going to find out as we move on with number 15.
Ah. So I guess I kick it off, huh?
Yep.
And I will be the first to say, I'm not sure about desensitized in quite the way he's saying, but I don't scare easily. I really don't. I startle. I don't scare. It takes a lot to really get me shaken. And in particular, it tends to be things that are not what people would normally think of. So I had to stretch to come up with things that were genuinely frightening to me. So I went, some were, but I went a lot with my own contributions with things that were more unsettling, or that maybe didn't scare me in the traditional Halloween sense, but more in the, my God, what is going on sense. And my number 15, well, our number 15, I'm kicking off with this one, falls into that latter category. I put a couple books on here that made me very frightened.
It's safe. It's very safe.
For the future of mankind, this country, what have you. And the first one does have a Halloween vibe to it. And that is Stacy Schiff's book, The Witches, Salem 1692. It's a nonfiction book, but it's about the Salem witch trials. And it goes into quite a bit of depth. And the way it's written, it kind of tries to put you in the shoes of the people who were there. So it tries to give you sort of like an eyewitness account, you might say. which does give it a little bit of a creepy vibe, and it does give it, But the scariest thing about the book is this happened in this nation. Well, technically before it was really this, but and people think, oh, that would never happen. Read that book, it's happened already. And it's scary to think how easily it could happen again. So that's why I picked it.
Well, I mean, everybody, at least we were all made to read The Crucible as students in school. And that really did wig a lot of people out that something like that would happen.
The Crucible is not a bad option, honestly, for this kind of list. It
is a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
So, number 14. So, video games. They're violent. They are fun. Yet sometimes they can be unsettling. The Silent Hill series is a series that has garnered a lot of respect. Unfortunately, it marked the end of Kojima and almost the end of Konami as we know it, with the departure of Silent Hills. But let's go way back to the beginning, the original Silent Hill. Now, I have been on a journey to try and beat all of the Silent Hill games. Well, I'm still on the second one. But that first game, I went back to it, and of course the graphics are off-putting. They're really not the best in the world. But the atmosphere, as you play the game, I would feel myself getting more and more uneasy with the different sounds, the creatures that they have flying at you from the sky. And though the rest of the games are really good about disturbing imagery, none of the games, in my opinion, have captured that feeling of unease quite like the original. I'm hoping one day they get a really good remaster of the game out, as it's only really available if you have a PlayStation 1, a PlayStation 2, or a PlayStation 3. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck. But it's well worth checking out. If I were you, and you haven't gotten to play this game, try and put the graphics on hold. Besides, we're in a retro world anyway. A lot of people doing the retro graphics. Think of it as a retro graphics indie game.
For kids.
And go at it. It is truly a disturbing experience.
Ooh. Okay.
Number 13.
Lucky number 13, yes. Okay, and we're going to continue in our theme of nonfiction books. Elizabeth Colbert's The Sixth Extinction. Very disturbing book. Again, not in the Halloween-y sense, so I hope you bear with us until we really get into the Halloween-y stuff. But anyone that has any appreciation for life in general, and in particular who has any interest in their kids being able to see something remotely like what they grew up with, this book will scare the crap out of you, because it's I think it should be required reading. But anyway, I'm going to leave that at that.
That makes me a sad panda.
But it's a really good book. It's really well written. But again, pretty disturbing. And thereby pretty scary.
Number 12.
Ooh.
Not as scary as 13. But And a film, oddly enough, I was introduced to by Mystery Science Theater 3000. A show that you wouldn't think would have something that would be disturbing on it.
I don't know. Santa Claus is pretty disturbing.
Disturbing in the sense that we're talking about. The movie I'm talking about is the movie Tormented. Tormented actually did come on another set called Attack of the Bees. I don't know if you remember it.
I don't remember it.
It's essentially about a man who ends up cheating on his fiancée. The fiancée, or actually, no. The woman he's cheating on the fiancée with threatens to reveal that she is cheating. I mean, he is cheating on her. And it ends up with her being shoved off of a lighthouse.
Monkey's out of the bottle, man.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
After that, she haunts him. And throughout the movie. And this movie, to me, got more and more disturbing as it went on. I was quite surprised by it. I'm not one to normally find these disturbing, but it did actually give me a bit of a fright. Not as much of a fright as, oh my gosh, I better run, but definitely a chill that lasted well beyond the movie's end. And that is something, especially for me. Alright then.
Alright. So,
Number 11.
11.
I saw that in theaters.
Number 11?
Yes, I did.
Oh my. Okay, so my first movie entry. Man, sorry. And I believe this is my last documentary, basically, of the bunch.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
But another one that scared the crap out of me, and will probably scare the crap out of anyone that watches it, and that was Food Incorporated. If you don't want to know where your food comes from, don't watch that movie. And if you do, you probably won't after you watch that movie.
I choose to believe what I was programmed to believe.
It's,
Actually,
yeah, I need to get it. It's it's essential viewing. It really is. I think you owe it to yourself to see the movie, but it will disturb you and make you rethink your diet. And to me, that is the mark of an excellent documentary, is if it makes you if it initiates change or makes you desire change. I half-jokingly almost had Supersize Me on this list because it kind of scared me. Again, the idea of your diet and whatever. And again, this is not really creepy scary, but this is more like, it's almost more scary because you feel like you have to do something, or your life is not going to go as well. And so it's a different kind of scary, but definitely it's unsettling. Yes.
Well, it certainly is. Number 10. So, number 10 is another one that is not as unsettling as an adult, but I originally watched this as a child. And that is The Adventures of Ichabod Crane and Mr. Toad. Let's leave the Mr. Toad part out of it, even though there is some disturbing nature to that. But this is a Disney cartoon that many of us have watched in our youth. Now, to me, in and of itself, now as a child, the whole thing did creep me out a lot. I mean, you've got a guy in there, and you're not used to seeing this thing as a kid, and he's being chased around by this guy with no head, and obviously the guy wants to kill him. And even as a kid, you get that he wants to kill him. He's not there to, play Catch the Pumpkin.
Here, hold this a minute.
And at the end, there is spoiler warning. You can skip forward maybe about 15
really?
seconds.
You're saying spoilers on this one?
Just in case somebody hasn't seen it.
Okay.
The ending is what, to me, still sticks with me.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you think he's going to get away,
Mm-hmm.
and then they leave with the image of the shattered pumpkin.
Yeah.
That just still sends a small chill down my spine.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
And I'll admit, I kind of laughed when he said he had a Disney one on here, but I will admit, it is, when you're a kid, it's pretty darn creepy. And the adventure, the tale of Sleepy Hollow is a tale that's almost as old as this country, and it is one of our better ghost stories, I think. And so it may not be as creepy as some of the other stuff out there, but it's a classic for a reason, Alright, so speaking of tales, number 9.
9, yes.
And we're back to books. And I'm going to be honest, this was a somewhat arbitrary inclusion, mainly because it's the most recent one I read by this author. I do know that it made me uneasy a couple of times going to bed while reading this book. I don't think it's necessarily the creepiest thing Stephen King has ever written, but The Outsider was pretty creepy. And King is known as the master of horror for a reason. The dude knows how to write a scary book. And I've read a few of them. The Stand, The Shining, Carrie, all had their lovely chilling moments in them. I need to read more, and I did just start reading it. So, from everything I've heard, it probably should have been the one I put on this list. But definitely, The Outsider has its moments that it deserves consideration. But it's mostly here as a placeholder for Stephen King. He deserves a spot somewhere on here. And in general, from what I've seen, in general, not always, but in general, his books do tend to be a little scarier and creepier than the movie/TV productions.
Or campier.
You're saying campier the books are? Or
Depending. It depends on the books.
It does. I'm generalizing, and I've only read a small number, so I give you that too. But overall, I do think The Outsider. I know I was a little ticked off to find out after I read The Outsider that it's apparently the fourth in a series. It's in the same series as Mr. Mercedes, and I think Finders Keepers. I don't know the other one. And from what I've heard, Mr. Mercedes is pretty darn good too, but I'll get to it one of these days. But
too many books. The man
the
man writes books like Woody Allen has produced films.
And not just that, Woody Allen's films are short and breezy. Stephen King, it's like that thick. It's
don't get started on The Unabridged Stand, which is the one I read.
Didn't I read that? I think you lent me the
Maybe.
Stand.
I've got a very good version of it.
It is an excellent book. And I thought about The Stand. I just didn't really remember being scared by The Stand. I was certainly creeped out by a lot of it.
As a fan of Stephen King, I have never been creeped out by any of his books.
Inconceivable!
Not at all.
Not at all.
Hell, Green Mile creeped me out a little bit. But not as bad as the others that...
Maybe it's just the format. It's just like certain things. Like, anime has a very hard time of making me creeped out at all, though there are moments. Mm-hmm. And just like books for some reason as a media rarely ever creep me out. Maybe it's because it's red.
See, I'm the opposite, because you're forced to use your imagination when you read, and that's really where the scare factor comes in, is when your imagination runs wild, But
number 8. So we're back to video games again.
All right.
Now this is the first in a series of many things, starting as video games, anime, manga, more video games, and a live action. we have Corpse Party.
Hmm.
Now, Corpse Party is very unassuming at first. The graphics are essentially what you would find on a Super Nintendo RPG, where you've got your little group of people and they're wandering around this old abandoned school. You see, it's about a bunch of school kids, and these school kids are trying to form this little like goodbye promise together, where they all hold on to a paper doll and say like some sort of spell in order to always be together. And they're transported to an evil dimension where they are back to the old elementary school that stood where their school now stands. During this time there was a mass slaughter of children, and the children creep down the halls trying to kill those who protrude onto their domain. Of course, not only is that an issue, but also the many souls of those who also are trapped and left behind, who continue to be tormented in this purgatory, are left wanting to prolong the torment of those trapped. Your objective in Corpse Party is to get the heck out. Maybe try and figure out what's going on, but it's mainly get the heck out. And throughout this, you have these little anime picture, like these actual drawn cutscenes. And there is a lot of disturbing imagery, a lot of disturbing voice acting. And that game is one that would leave me a little bit up at night. I have yet to be able to beat the game. Not because I got scared about it, but because it's more difficult to beat.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
But still,
I'm sure that's the reason.
If you want something that is creepy to play, this is one of the creepiest games that you can have full involvement in.
Good times.
You saw, did I show you the anime? Maybe not, because I think it was too gory for you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a scene where a little girl is cutting out a person's tongue with scissors and then gouging out the eyes.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Cut out the tongue, but the other,
Number 7.
No, we're at 8. No, we are at 7.
Yes.
Okay. So, this one is borderline scary, but it's definitely creepy. And it's one of those ones, again, that's more scary because it could potentially have been a thing. Less so nowadays, where everyone takes their own pictures all the time, and how many Photoshops are still out, whatever. But I really do think that one of the most underrated horror, psychological thriller / horror movies of the past several years was 1 Hour Photo. And 1 Hour Photo in particular, Robin Williams should have gotten some real awards love for that. Oh my God, Williams was a brilliant actor. He was well known as a comedian, but he could do a wide range. And in 1 Hour Photo, he perfectly plays the unassuming, nice, decent guy who happens to be frighteningly fixated on a particular family. And minor spoiler, the part where you see him sitting in his chair at night watching television, and the camera pans out, and you see all the pictures on the wall, and then you see that this is all this one family that he has no business having any of their pictures. That part just creeped me out. And I was like, oh my God, now Calise, get out, Calise. Cat wants to join us.
A black cat.
Yes, well, partly. But, yeah, so basically, 1 hour photo it totally creeped me out. And part of the reason why I have issues, I don't know why this sets me off the way it does.
You know what really grinds my gears?
But, when you're talking about scary and creepy, and most people will have particular triggers that bother them. I don't know why, but people intruding on other people, whether violating their personal space or violating their home space, I just, I'm very disturbed by rape and very disturbed by anything like it. And to me, this movie was kind of like he was kind of, in a way, doing that to this family.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was totally violating this family just by his obsession with them. And, yeah, it just disturbed the hell out of me. But, again, I mean, if you've never seen it, you should watch it, if only for Robin Williams' performance. But it's definitely a creepy movie. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Number 6. Back to you.
Oh, yes. And another one that didn't really scare me as much as unnerved me. There are probably no movie I've ever seen that viscerally unnerved me the way Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan did. Black Swan it's an absolutely a paranoid horror story. Natalie Portman plays this character who is completely obsessed with becoming top ballerina or whatever it is, to the point, way beyond the point of logic and common sense. And she's so into it that she starts becoming incredibly paranoid. She starts having psychotic visions. She starts just losing it. And the movie puts you in her headspace. And it's not a fun headspace to be in. This is not a movie that I'm in a hurry to see again. But I'm glad I saw it. I was deeply impressed, but yeah.
I see where she's removing the skin. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some visual disturbing stuff too.
All right, number.
That was one I saw in theaters.
I think I saw that on Blu-ray or something like that before the show. I can't remember whether it was released before or after. Well, number 5.
All right.
Number 5 was my original number 1 choice before we combined our lists. Also, the last one that we did not share. The last 4 we did keep as a shared list. So, number 5 is The Last Shift. Out of all of these films, this is the only one that left me truly frightened afterwards. Frightened to the point where I did not want to go out into a dark hallway.
Is it safe?
Because it was that disturbing. The Last Shift follows this woman who's her first day as a police officer. So she is manning the last shift of the police department as the whole thing is moved to a new building. But they still need to do a couple of things before they can do the full switchover. So she is the only person in that building as they're shutting down. So as she has to spend the night, she is tormented by psychotic visions and what appears to be spirits of evil murderers that had met their end in the prison, or really jail. This movie is disturbing on multiple levels. Not necessarily a gory level. I think it's one that you could watch. But it is one that left me shaken after seeing it. This is not one that I take lightly. Matter of fact, I don't scare easy. Not anymore. As a child, I scared very easy. But now, it takes a lot to get me into that point. I watch horror movies now mainly for the fact that they intrigue me on a level. But they definitely don't scare me. And this one definitely did. So, now we're down to the top 4.
Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations! Thank you all.
So we're just going to take it back and forth, but I'm sure we both have comments on these.
Okay.
So we'll go with number 4.
Yeah.
And start us off.
All right. And we'll have a slight return to Stephen King, but this time, one of his movies. And I put this on the list more because I was reaching for things to put, but I know he put it much higher. But I will admit, 1408 is a pretty darn creepy movie. And it's really well done. And again, this was one that kind of puts you in the protagonist's headspace to a degree. You know, John Cusack plays a professional debunker, I do believe, who checks into a hotel that's supposedly haunted, room 1408, supposedly haunted. Sam Jackson plays the hotel administrator who tries everything that he can think of to keep Cusack out of the room. And obviously, things don't end up going very well for Mr. Cusack. Yeah.
Yes. To me, it was a movie that, first off, I will never think of the song that they play the same.
Which one was that?
Again.
I can almost hear it. I can't remember it, though. I can almost hear it. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, now I've got it lost out of my head. But every time I hear it, I think of that film. But that's one of those things. It's sort of like when you hear the same song, the Sonny and Cher song, with every Groundhog Day.
Right.
You keep wanting to say, "Hell, rise and shine."
Right.
And it's just that iconic. And the song they chose was very good. Also, the way that it kept moving and moving in a manner that actually attacked you not only on the surface level, but deeper down psychologically. It was one of those experiences that leaves you not chilled, but disturbed at the end. And not disturbed as in the planet's in danger disturbed, but actually horror movie style disturbed.
Yep.
And that is why this is our number 4. Number
3.
Alright. Well, we had 1408, and we actually do have an anime on this list. It's one that I think is slightly disturbing. It was higher up on my list, and you had it midway through. But
no, I think I had that one pretty close to the bottom too. But yeah, that's.
And because we both had it, it kind of moved down to the bottom rung, and that is Kokorenbo, or hide and seek. Matter of fact, Captain Streaming had shown this off as one of his suggestions last week.
Did he now?
Yes. And this is one where you have a bunch of children who are invited by one of the other children to play a game of hide and seek. There is a story that if everybody comes at a certain time and plays hide and seek at this certain neighborhood, something special will happen. And something special does happen. And it starts a very high-stakes game of hide and seek. This is an animated short. It's not very long. It is a little bit harder to get a hold of. It's out of print.
45, 50 minutes?
Yeah, it
wasn't
wasn't that long, yeah. And to me, it was slightly disturbing in the fact that these are children being hunted down. But for some reason, the ending is what got me. And that's how it is with a lot of these. Like Ichabod Crane, the ending, and I'm not going to ruin the twist at the end, but the ending did give me a bit of a chill. Just that twist. I don't know what it was or why, but it did. It had that ghost story feel.
I know the value of an ending definitely can be a big part of it. There was one that I considered for the list and ultimately decided not to, but the ending kind of did it for me, and that was the movie that I just saw, Unsane. The final shot in that film is so haunting. It's like, I liked it. But the film overall, I wasn't sure it really was quite what I was looking for this. So I guess we're ready for number 2.
Number 2. Go for it.
Well, and I'm assuming that this is the one I watched, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
There are several versions of this. Did you watch part 2 or did you?
No, I did. I just watched the one, and I think it was called Silent Hill PT in Real Life. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, it was a live action of a video game trailer.
Silent Hill's PT in Real Life. So basically, this is I think it was like 13-minute short. You can find it on YouTube. It was pretty disturbing. It was basically, they did a sort of a walkthrough of part of the game, but in live action. And they did a good job with it. And I'll admit, I included it partly just because I was running low on ideas, but I know he put it a little higher on the list. He's much more familiar than I am with Silent Hill, but I did look at this and go, I'm feeling a little unnerved, slightly.
Well, PT stands for Playable Trailer.
Yeah.
Because it was the trailer for Silent Hills, which sadly never came out.
It stinks.
People can actually see the playthrough of this on YouTube. If you're lucky enough to have downloaded it, you will be able to play it. If you have not, sadly you never will, because Konami said, okay, well, that's scrapped. Alright, we're taking it down. But this is very disturbing. The original shows a person wandering down a hallway, getting to a door, and then going through the door and then being back at the beginning of the hallway again. But as he goes, things get more and more disturbing. Eventually, things get to the point where the frights outweigh the minor scares. I think in the live action, they did a great job of translating this. And I actually believe live action is scarier than the original game, except for the part where they had the wet paper bag talking, which was kind of comical more than it was.
That was right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I was like, okay.
Yeah, that part's not very scary, but it is scary in the game itself. I suggest you check out both, and there is a second part to this, and I thought that was fun too. But that first part, my goodness, it will have your heart racing a bit as you see shadows artfully placed in the background, the mind playing tricks on you, and a few well-placed jump scares. It definitely leaves you tense.
And I feel like we saw a couple other YouTube shorts that were pretty darn creepy.
Oh, yeah. And there was one about the stairs where this little girl would go down the stairs, and they say, well, once you get down to the 13th step, you're good. And then it's like 13, 14, 15. You have to see it to understand it, but it is a creepy one.
I remember that. That was cool.
And then there was the one where Lights Out, where you have the original Lights Out short. Those are all slightly disturbing. I think shorts have the ability to convey the fright much better than a full-length movie. A full-length movie has the challenge of keeping you in that, whereas one of these like shorts, they can get right to it. They can push in there, and they can end it there. They can end at that high note.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have a few honorable mentions,
Mm-hmm.
so take a look
right now.
All right.
All right.
So number one.
Oh, let's see. Did we have any quick comments on any of those? I guess probably not too much.
I mean, I know that you would be interested in Mermaid Scar with yours.
Oh yeah, Mermaid Scar was good, and and again, that was more disturbing than scary, but it was disturbing. And same thing with Requiem for a Dream and Perfect Blue. I will admit, Train to Busan actually did. It was pretty much, it got me in there and kind of, I don't know if I'd rate it, if I really had time to really stat out every horror film I ever saw, which one was the scariest and what, but that one was one that was fresh in my mind as, although I think the part that had me more involved was the fact that one fat douchebag that kept sacrificing people to save his own butt. I was sitting there going, why don't they just kill him? Why don't they just kill him? When you get that riled up against one character,
Yeah, and then of course with Perfect Blue, it is a disturbing film, but there is one scene. But they're in an elevator, and so you hear this music playing, and then when the elevator opens, there's a boombox, and it just...
Love from an Angel playing light J-pop song. It's, again, you're talking about great use of music to create a creepy scene.
Oh, yeah. For me, House on Haunted Hill, the remake, I thought had some very creepy parts, especially at the first part of the film. I thought it kind of rushed it at the end, but very well done. I like Dark Castle. I like their remakes of classic horror films, of Castle, matter of fact. And Grave Encounters, again, very creepy found footage film. And a few others from my past. Insidious. Again, we talk about songs that it creeps out. Tiptoe Through the Tulips. It made that song extremely creepy.
Well, another one that I briefly thought about was, I think I told you about this, I had a coworker who told me that the song that the serial killer in M whistles, that scared the living daylights out of her.
Oh, it is a creepy thing. M is actually quite creepy for when it was filmed.
M was one I considered, and it sure does qualify as a creepy movie.
What about the one with like the grin or something like that, where it's got the guy where it shows a really old film where it has the guy with a really big grin on his face? I can't think of it.
That's not ringing a bell.
Well, number one. So this is one we both saw in theaters, but we both saw it under totally different circumstances. And that is Paranormal Activity. Now...
we gotta give them time to stop yelling at the screen. Boo! Okay.
So, let's talk about this. And I think the best way to do this is to go over how each of us first experienced the film. because we experienced it in totally different manners.
Yes.
Me, I witnessed Paranormal Activity in a filled to the brim theater with tons of little kids, and I mean kids of 5 and under.
Because, for kids.
Yeah.
For kids.
Yeah.
But this was a very odd way of doing it. But the way that it was done and the reactions that people had kind of made it more creepy in a lot of ways. Because you're sitting there when they're going, "Oh my God!" and you're looking around like, what? Because it's a found footage film where a group of people are haunted by this demon creature.
Mm-hmm.
And the haunting becomes more and more obvious as the film goes on, until it climaxes at the end. And then at the very end, everybody screamed at the very end.
Ah!
And that made an impression. And I thought to myself, this is a creepy film series. I might have to stick with that. My mistake.
How little you knew.
Yeah, so what about your experience?
Okay, now let me just say, I understand and I know that a lot of people are like, Paranormal Activity. Visualize this. I went to see it at a crappy-ass little rundown theater that was getting ready to be remodeled soon. I was the only person in the theater for the first several minutes of the movie. 2 people came in late and sat in the very back of the theater and were very quiet, and they left before the final credits were finished. So I started and ended this by myself in the theater. I left. It was raining and dark, and I went home to a dark house with no one there. And I'm going to say it scared the crap out of me. And it wasn't entirely the movie. It was the combination of factors. But I will say this to the naysayers. Paranormal Activity makes phenomenal use of sound, or the lack thereof. And, jump scares don't do a crap for me in the usual sense. But when you got an actual, every bit of ambient sound can be attributed to something actually happening, and you've got almost no ambient sound, and then out of nowhere something slams against the wall.
Yeah.
It has an effect. It has an impact. It's not like walking past the door and someone jumps out at you. No, that's stupid. That's overdone. And also, the whole demon aspect of it, that is something that creeped me out. If I really wanted to think longer and harder, I probably would have had more of those kind of movies on here, because that always has been something that's bothered me a little bit. But overall, though, I just think this was a movie that really did make masterful use of sound. It did a really good job with the found footage aspect of it. Mm-hmm. The performances, I thought, were pretty naturalistic, and it was a well-made movie for what it was, and just the circumstances around it. And then my second viewing may have been yours, I don't know. But I remember he invited some friends over, and we put it on at, 2:30 in the morning? So, watching that movie in the dead of night also can heighten the creepy factor of it. No doubt about it.
See, and that's something I find that is... Okay, for many of you who are not old enough to remember, this is before found footage was a big thing. Yes, you had the Blair Witch, but you really didn't have a lot of other stuff like that, or not a lot of well-known stuff, and nothing quite like this. And that made it all too different. And because of the lack of sound, you really did become hyper-focused on everything. The movie trained you throughout to just hyper-focus on every bit, every detail, because you were looking for the slightest movement, the slightest sound, so you could see what was going on with this creature.
And actually, this year we see a new entry into this kind, not the found footage, but the use of sound. I said with Paranormal Activity, and I was absolutely sincere, it should have been an Oscar contender for sound mixing and sound editing. And I think A Quiet Place this year falls in that same category, because that made brilliant use of sound and silence to increase the creep factor. And A Quiet Place was another one I considered for this, but I did find it more creepy than scary. But definitely in that ballpark, no doubt about it.
Well, with that,
Yes.
we will bid you adieu.
Yes. Arr.
And we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's safe. It's very safe.